On the second day of Prime Minister Pushpa Dahal's four-day official visit to India yesterday, 7 agreements were inked between the two countries. However, Premier Dahal's India visit failed to make the expected breakthrough on aviation permit and the Pancheshwar project, while topics including solutions to border disputes and report of the eminent persons group were not even raised. Good morning, I'm Abhyuday Shrestha, and these are the headlines of the hour. Prime Minister Pushpa Dahal on his 4-day visit to India reaches Indore in Madhya Pradesh. Premier Dahal to wrap up his India visit and return home tomorrow via Delhi. Schools in majority of the Terai districts including Morang, Dhanusha, Parsa and Nawalparashi shut down due to scorching heat. Children swim in ponds and lakes to beat the heat. U.S. President Joe Biden trips and falls while handing out diplomas at a graduation ceremony for the U.S. Air Force Academy in Colorado. The White House says President Biden is fine. And South Korea edged past Ecuador 3-2 to reach the FIFA Under-20 World Cup quarterfinals. Uruguay also booked a place in the last 8 with a 1-0 win over Gambia. Prime Minister Pushpa Dahal, who started his 4-day visit to India on Wednesday, has reached Indore in Madhya Pradesh today. Speaking to journalists in Delhi earlier this morning prior to heading to Indore, Prime Minister Dahal stated that the one-on-one discussions with his Indian counterpart has improved relations between the two countries. Premier Dahal will visit various religious sites in Indore today. Prime Minister Dahal is also scheduled to observe a waste management plant this afternoon. While in Indore, Premier Dahal will be staying at Hotel Marriott, where he is scheduled to meet Madhya Pradesh Governor Mangubhai Patel. BJP leader and Chief Minister Shivraj Singh Chauhan will also host a dinner in Dahal's honor. Premier Dahal is scheduled to fly to Delhi from Indore tomorrow and return to Nepal tomorrow itself. Premier Dahal had called on Indian President Draupadi Murmu and Vice President Jagdeep Dhankar yesterday. Prior to that, Premier Dahal had held a meeting with his Indian counterpart Narendra Modi, and both the sides signed bilateral agreements. CPN Maoist Center Chairperson Pushpa Dahal, who was appointed the Prime Minister 5 months ago, had placed the India visit in his top priority. A week ago, he had claimed of making breakthrough agreements with India. However, diplomatic experts are of the opinion that the basic agreements reached at the Hyderabad House yesterday do not represent Nepal's requirements and interests. Prime Minister Dahal had reached New Delhi on Wednesday with a jumbo delegation of around 150 members, including half a dozen ministers, 1.5 dozen high-ranking government officials, and representatives of the private sector. Based on the schedule of the visit, significant agreements were to be signed on the second day yesterday. However, diplomatic analysts are not prepared to agree that the agreements were in line with the claims of Prime Minister Dahal. India is yet to recognize the report of the eminent persons group and provide aviation routes to the Lumbini and Pokhara regional international airports. While Nepal had prioritized the topics of curbing trade deficit and the implementation of the Pancheshwar project, India did not pay any attention to them. Not a single word was spoken about Lipulekh and Kalapani. India evidently has not paid special interest to the ongoing state visit of Prime Minister Dahal. Diplomatic experts have said that similar experiences have been felt in the past as well. However, a few diplomatic experts have said that Prime Minister Dahal's India visit cannot be termed unproductive. Petroleum pipeline is not the priority of Nepal. With the aim of developing electricity infrastructures and exporting power to Bangladesh, the government of Nepal has put forward the policies of increasing electricity consumption and curbing import of fossil fuels. In such a situation, Nepal has been made to settle with the extension of the petroleum pipeline. At a time when massive concerns have been raised about the Lumbini International Airport, aviation permit should have been Nepal's priority, but it did not materialize. Welcome back. The majority of the local administrations in the Terai region have directed schools to shut down considering the rising temperature in recent days. Biratnagar metropolis, that has witnessed a temperature of 41 degrees centigrade since the past 5 days, has announced holiday for both public and private schools since yesterday. Elsewhere in Janakpur Dham, schools have been shut since temperatures peaked to 41 degrees. Children have been swimming in ponds and lakes to deal with the heat. Likewise, Binai Triveni Rural Municipality and Kawasoti Municipality in East Nawalparasi have also closed schools as temperatures reached 42 degrees centigrade. In Jhapa, Mechi Nagar, Birtamor, Damak and Kanchankaul Rural Municipality have closed schools as temperatures peaked to 41 degrees. Schools have also been shut in Rotahat due to increasing heat. Education institutions in Parsa's Birganj metropolis are to remain closed for 8 days. Parsa has recorded a peak of 44 degrees this year so far. Community schools in Paterwa Sugoli Rural Municipality of Parsa has announced holiday for 10 days starting today. Likewise, Rapti, Khairahani and Madi in eastern Chitwan have also decided to close schools. Madi has announced of 2 days holiday, Khairahari 6 days and Rapti 5 days starting today. Chitwan has recorded temperature of up to 41 degrees centigrade in the past 5 days. One more arrest has been made in the fake Bhutanese refugee scam. With the investigations into the case gaining momentum, Haribhakta Maharjan, who was absconding, was arrested by police in Kathmandu yesterday. Cases of treason, organized crime, fraud and forgery have been filed against 30 individuals, including former Deputy Prime Minister Topadur Raimaji, former Minister for Home Affairs Balkrishna Khan, Secretary Tek Narayan Pandey and Indrajit Rai, who was the security advisor to former Deputy Prime Minister Rambahadur Thapa. Cases have been filed against them seeking to recover 288.1 million rupees. So far, 16 alleged culprits have been arrested, while 14 are at large. Of those absconding, Lakshmi Maharjan was arrested a few days ago. It's time now for our segment Public Pulse, where you text us with your opinion.
Public Pulse.
Here's the question. Why has the government policy of distributing free medicines not been effective? Your options are A, unscientific distribution, B, government indifference, and C, inadequate budget. The voting is on. Type NEWS, select your option A, B, or C, and send it to 34001 to share your opinion with us. And it's time now for the international updates. U.S. President Joe Biden has tripped and fallen while handing out diplomas at a graduation ceremony for the U.S. Air Force Academy in Colorado. Biden, who is the nation's oldest serving president at 80, was helped back up to his feet and appeared to be uninjured. The president had been standing for about an hour and a half to shake hands with each of the 921 graduating cadets. The White House Communications Director said President Biden is fine. A White House press pool report earlier said Biden had tripped on a black sandbag while moving on stage. Footage of the incident shows President Biden appearing to point at one of two sandbags used to prop up his teleprompter, as he was helped up by an Air Force official and two members of his Secret Service detail. He was seen walking back to his seat unassisted and later jogging back to his motorcade when the ceremony ended shortly after the accident. Critics have said Biden is too old to run for a second term as president. Recent polls suggest a majority of U.S. voters are concerned about his advanced age. He would be 82 at the start of a second term if he wins. This fall, in addition to previous stumbles from his bicycle and on the way up the Air Force One stairs, could add to those concerns. Sri Lanka's President Ranil Wickremesinghe has said that his country's economy is on the road to recovery. In a sign of confidence that the worst of Sri Lanka's financial crisis is over, its central bank surprised markets by cutting interest rates for the first time in 3 years, signaling a change of course to fuel a rebound in the economy. The South Asian island republic plunged into crisis last year as its foreign exchange reserves ran out, food and energy prices spiraled, and protesting mobs forced the ouster of the country's then president. Wickremesinghe took the reins in July and negotiated a $2.9 billion bailout from the International Monetary Fund in March. Inflation, which hit a record high of around 70% in September, is coming down. Government revenues are looking up, and pressure on the country's balance of payments is easing. The government aims to complete talks to restructure its bilateral debt with other countries by September. Analysts said with the Central Bank of Sri Lanka having successfully dealt with the runaway inflation, it was turning its attention to growth. The central bank raised rates by a record 950 basis points last year to tame inflation and by 100 BPS on 3rd of March this year. The IMF expects GDP to contract 3% this year after a 7.8% contraction last year. The Central Bank of Sri Lanka has forecast a 2% contraction in 2023. In a visit to the U.S. capital, Washington, D.C., Indian opposition leader Rahul Gandhi criticized Prime Minister Narendra Modi's handling of relations with China, saying Beijing was occupying Indian territory while also taking a dig at the Hindu nationalist leader over the country's religious polarization. Gandhi's trip comes weeks ahead of Modi's scheduled U.S. visit later this month. China and India have been uneasy neighbors for decades following a war on their disputed Himalayan frontier in the early 1960s. Their relations deteriorated in mid-2020 when their troops clashed on the border, killing 20 Indian soldiers and 4 on the Chinese side. This year, China ramped up tension by renaming 11 locations in India's eastern state of Arunachal Pradesh, which China calls southern Tibet and claims as its territory. India has rejected and denied those claims. Since coming to power in India in 2014, the Bharatiya Janata Party government of Modi has pumped millions of dollars to boost military and civilian infrastructure along its 3,800-kilometer frontier with China. Separately, Gandhi blamed Modi for India's religious polarization, saying the BJP was not an inclusive party. The BJP denies the allegations and says its policies are aimed at the welfare and development of all Indians. Gandhi also accused the BJP of capture of institutions and capture of the press in India. Since Modi took office in 2014, India has slid from 140th in World Press Freedom Index, an annual ranking by non-profit Reporters Without Borders, to 161st this year, its lowest ever. The BJP denies institutional compromise and says its governance abides by the rule of law. It's time now for the weather update. That's all for the moment. Thank you for watching. Have a good day.